Are you ready to transform your wounds to your wisdom to your superpowers, so that you can truly transform your pain to your power and your power to passionate purpose? I am Schamet Horsfield, Wounds to Wisdom Oracle and Coach, and I will be your guide upon your journey of transforming wounds to wisdom, so you can truly manifest a life of your wildest dreams. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world today. I hope you're having an amazing day. I am so excited to have Katja Rusanen with me here today. She is an amazing, amazing spiritual teacher, healer, and doing some incredible things in the world. And she's just coming out with a new book called Spiritual Curriculum. And I am so over the moon excited about your book. She shared a little bit with me, and she's still working with the designers and things like that. So she is getting ready to give birth to her book in the same way that I'm getting ready to give birth with my Oracle deck. So we're kind of in the same place, like mirroring back our soul path purpose work about uplifting and transforming people with wounds so they can heal from their unresolved childhood trauma and really align to their soul purpose, mission, and path on the planet. So it is so good to have a soul sister, when birds of a feather, we fly together. And Katja and I have been flying together. So great to have you here, Katja.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and pleasure to be here and hopefully bring some inspiration and insights for your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on this podcast, we talk about the wounds to the wisdom to the superpower story. And I know you've got a really interesting one because I've, of course, heard it before and went, oh, yes, we have to have that on the podcast. It really moved me, like brought tears to my eyes. And I thought, wow, people are so going to relate to your story. So I'm just so excited for you to be sharing this with us today.
Yes, I am as well. As it has been a journey to get to this point, and always wanting to support and inspire people on their journey wherever they find themselves, that there is hope, because I wish I can bring the spark of light into those days when we might not be able to see the future bright, but it is possible, and I have experienced that on my own journey.
Absolutely. And isn't it true that our wounds and our trauma and all the things that went wrong are exactly the reason we're here doing the work that we're doing?
Yes, it can be as we find that deeper meaning and purpose in life. And often those life events that feel that happen to us, if we switch and see the learning that we gained, that life happened for us, that's when we start seeing that deeper meaning. We find those lessons. We can start seeing that wisdom as you share, and then turning that wisdom into superpower, because it is truly possible and it is available. Like Shamat, you are doing beautiful work in the world and helping people to discover that superpower that they have, so that they can then fulfill their soul's mission and have that fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And you as well. This is, it's big work. It's dark times right now for a lot of people are struggling with emotional and spiritual, um, health issues. And I know because that was me for many years, and it can really be a struggle. And so, thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And Spiritual Curriculum is going to be an amazing book. Can you, I want to dive a little bit into that before we start the Wounds to Wisdom story, just because I'm
Yes.
curious. Can you tell me what spiritual curriculum means?
Absolutely. So it's based on belief that we are in the earth school. Like we are souls having a human experience, and we can use this human experience for our learning, growth, and upliftment. And I believe that as a souls, we are actually planning this journey. But what happens? We come here and we forget this great plan of ours. Like I can learn this and that, and wow, I can grow and expand. And we come here and we are wondering why things happen to me. So then that is like the journey when we can start seeing life from soul's perspective, shifting that focus from the pain and suffering to that learning and growth. And that is a moment as well we start seeing through the life experiences what we have been learning here or what we are currently learning. And that is our spiritual curriculum. And that is an opportunity to have that awareness when life like throws those curveballs to us. We can start asking instead of why is this happening to me? It's like, what can I learn through this experience? And that is a key for you to move forward with greater ease. So that's what your spiritual curriculum is all about. And it is based on my own journey. And then, of course, the work that I have done with my clients and sharing those inspirational stories, but also sharing you the keys, how you can discover your spiritual curriculum and how you can then make peace with your past because
Mm.
many of us have some life events that are still haunting us. I had one, and I'm going to share it with you soon. But I had one that was haunting me for years. And even though I tried to push it away, it didn't go away. It came back over and over again. So if you have some of those events in your own life, this book will give you keys to make that peace with your past so that you can transform your future.
Absolutely. And that's where we're just going to dive right in because I think your story really shows your ability to do that. Because I think a lot of people struggle with the healing process because of those reoccurring negative thoughts from the trauma. And so your story is so powerful. Shall we just dive right in?
Let's go. So, so let me take you back in time.
Mm,
And if you're wondering where this accent is from, so I was growing up in Finland
mm.
and living in the countryside. I was 16 years old, and maybe you also remember your first love, the moment when you fall in love, and all of a sudden, everything is so much more beautiful. The sun is shining brighter, the birds are singing sweet melodies, and I felt this bubbling happiness when I was together with this boy, and it was my first love. But unfortunately, my love story did not end with this happily ever after. It ended suddenly when I heard the news from my mom that my boyfriend had died by suicide.
Oh,
And that moment really stopped me on the tracks. It was a moment when I felt that part of me died. And it was the moment when I started asking why. The question why was like that open wound that would not stop bleeding. I was like asking, what had I missed? Why didn't I see it coming as I'm intuitive? Why didn't I see it? And then I started wondering if I would have been more attentive, more attractive, more anything, he would have stayed because I felt I should have saved him. And
Katya, how long were you guys together?
it was just few months, but that
Wow.
few months somehow I feel like sometimes the time is not that relevant. It's more the depth of the connection. And in this connection, I also believe this was part of my karma here, part of my learning journey, as I had known I come from a small village, so we know each others, and I had said so many times before, no, but that spring something shifted, and all of a sudden all I could see was him, and really wanted to be with him, and we started dating. He was the first boyfriend I took home, and he introduced me to his parents. So it was something that I had never experienced before. It was really this uh, connection, and it was something very, very special. But unfortunately, it ended so suddenly, and I
Wow. And
felt
I want to say, just to add to this, like that is your sweet 16. I
mm,
remember my sweet 16. It is very impactful and very
yeah,
deep, that connection. And I think because also it's your first love. My son is 17 and he's just had this first girlfriend, and there's something very, very special about that connection. And so, man, wow, that it's really intense what you went through. I just want to say, oh,
yeah,
what a huge spiritual initiation onto your path. A very
yeah.
painful one.
It was very painful, and it was so painful that the grief was so overwhelming at that age, especially, that I felt like the future had lost its meaning. I didn't see anything there. And what I was struggling as well was that guilt, because I blamed myself. I felt I should have been with him that night. I should have saved him. And that guilt put me into such a dark place that I started thinking and considering following his footsteps. And I was very, very close to do so. But luckily, on the 11th hour, there was a divine intervention that connected with me with loving. All of the sudden, there was this flash of light in my very dark mind. And that reminded me of my big brother who had passed away, died by accident, before I was born. And I had always wanted to have this guardian like the big brother. And I remembered him, and he helped me then to remember my parents and their love. And that love made me make a U-turn and return to life. I made that choice to continue because I did not want to put the grief and pain that I was feeling to anyone else. Because I was able to see how my parents would suffer if they would lose another child. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. So that helped me then to choose life. And that started really my healing journey through the grief and darkness and trauma.
That's a lot. There's a lot to maneuver through at such a young age. So how did you do it?
How did I do it? Well, it was truly a long journey because one of the things, as I was still carrying, even though I made that choice, okay, I will continue. I'm not following his footsteps. I will find a way. There was this feeling inside that there is a meaning and there is a purpose from through all of this. And I had a huge challenge to accept help because of the guilt I carried. I felt that I didn't deserve to be happy. I didn't deserve anything good. And love really was a curse word for me. So it was beginning to see like love was not for me. I was unlovable in my eyes. And what helped me there was this it's so funny how spirit orchestrates sometimes things before all this happened, I had studied different religions of the world. That was part of our school class. And I have discovered Buddhism. And they had this saying that this too shall pass. And that sentence, it was written in my notebook, and that sentence somehow pulled me forward then to do a little bit digging deeper into the studies of and their beliefs. And there was like, life is suffering. And I was that time like, yes, finally, somebody acknowledges this. Like, they get it. Life is suffering. I agree 100%. But that also helped me then to start finding a little bit the teachings, spiritual teachings. And those spiritual teachings, they were like these glimpses of light that helped me to start finding the answers little by little. And this was years, because I would say the first 15 years, I was really trying to push this away. I was really trying just to erase that chapter from my life. And maybe you as well have tested. It didn't work for me.
It doesn't work. I've tried to. It's like, I'm going to put that in the box. I'm going to close the box. And then the Pandora's box just keeps opening back up. And I'm like, ah. And I always say to my clients, you can't heal what you don't feel. But you also have to be able to feel it, because a lot of people say, oh, why are you going into the past? You shouldn't go into the past. Just keep your eyes into the future. And it's like, well, you have to do both. You have to actually do all three. Go into the past, deal with the past, deal what's in the box. Otherwise, it's just going to keep coming up. I like your analogy of the beach ball, popping up out of the water. That was a really good one. I was like, yes. Can you just explain that beach ball one? Because it's such a good analogy.
Yeah, because that's really how I feel like and felt back then. Like, imagine yourself just standing on the pool and having a beach ball. And this beach ball is all the things you have stored, all those emotional things that you don't want to feel. And you try to push it down. And of course, you can do it for a while, but also it limits you. Your actions in the pool are a little bit limited, because if you move too much, if you move your hand, it just bounces back. And often it bounces back on those moments when you really, really do not want that to bounce back up. So, and then you try to push it back, and you know how hard it is to get the ball
Takes a
under the
lot of
water
work.
again. So that's what I was doing years and years and years, trying to push that ball down. And it was really a struggle. And I tried to keep that cool, because I put the mask on, because after a while, especially when it was like, oh, that was a teenage crush, because of course we hadn't been together that long. So people thought like, oh, you should be over it. So what I learned was to put the mask on and just smile and say, everyone, I'm okay, even though I totally was not okay.
Yeah, going into that people-pleasing mode, huh?
Absolutely. And just like pretending I'm good, and then having really, really dark thoughts inside, but then also coping on doing all the things in the world that people actually thought, if they did not want to see, they were thinking I was okay. So it was not until I went to a palm reader, because palm reader is a place where you go when you want to find your direction, right? So
Exactly. Palm reading, clairvoyance, psychics. I love getting my my destiny read.
so I went to a palm reader because I was like thinking I was crossroads 15 years later. So 15 years I was holding that beach ball underwater. And then this a man was telling me many, many very accurate things. And then all of a sudden he asked, why don't you write? And that question really triggered something within me. I was like, how does he know that I have a story to tell? How can he see it? And there and then I promised that I will start writing. And that night I went back home and I started typing. And it really felt like opening that Pandora's box. Like all those things that I had wanted to push away started coming back because I knew that I want to write a trilogy. So think about writing one book, but I knew I'm going to write a trilogy about the journey. And I put it in the fiction because it felt easier for me to do that first, to write a fictional novel where the core events were the things I went through, but then also starting to see things that would have helped me at the age of 16. So I started writing that book, and it was really helping me to shift what I talked about, like from life happened to me to start seeing that life happened for me.
This is such a beautiful analogy of, your wound being the suicide and all of the many emotions that got brought up around that: self-worth, blame, guilt, shame, all the wounds, right? You were experiencing them at such a young age, which if that had happened to me, I would have done the exact same thing. I probably would have contemplated, why am I here? What am I doing? All that stuff. So it was the wounding. And then you moved into the wisdom of your spiritual seeking and your spiritual quest and finding answers and collecting all the pieces of wisdom that started to help you kind of formulate an understanding of, okay, why has this happened? And then I love that you started writing, because that's the superpowers, right? That's bringing that wisdom to the world through your superpower, which is being an author, sharing your stories. I love that. And I love that it came through a palm reader, because that is why I do what I do, oracle reading, is because they have helped me. All the palm readers, psychics, clairvoyants, mediums, there's so many different styles and types, Akashic records, healers, and they have all helped me upon my path so much to help connect the dots of my soul path purpose. And so, wow. And so now here you are in your superpowers.
Yeah, because it really helped me to start writing. And of course, when you are on a path, then also support appears. So while I was writing this book, and of course, I'm a non-native English speaker, and I felt called to write in English. That was just really clear in my head. Like, okay, I'm
And
going to write
Katja,
it
how old
in
were
English.
you when you first started writing?
Oh, I'm not good with numbers.
Yeah, but
So.
you're in your 20s, your
That was
30s?
50. No, I was in 30s. Like this was already now 2017. So yeah,
Okay.
that was some time ago. And no, 2007. Yeah. So that was a journey. And when I was opening up to writing, I was writing also an article to a local magazine. And the editor was like, "Oh, we want to publish this, but come to talk with us, to come to the office." And I went there, and this lady, without knowing me, within 5 minutes, she was asking, "What else are you working on?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm writing my first ever book." And she was like, I can help you with that there and then. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, and she's still today. She's actually one of the editors in the Your Spiritual curriculum, and she has been such a key person for me, opening the door that yes, even though I'm non-native, there are people who can support me to polish the text and bring the message forward. So that was really a gift from Spirit saying, yes, you can. So just keep going.
Isn't that beautiful? I find that too, in my journey when I'm on my soul path, doing my purpose work, all these guardian angels just come around me and support. It's so beautiful. So is she an actual editor as well?
Yes, she's an editor, and she's been such a key person to on her own journey. She's also studying spirituality, so she has awareness, and we have good conversations always about the topic as well in my books. So I loved having support because we are not here on our own, even though I one point I thought I am super alone, but there are so much support available when we are open to receive.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And what is her name?
Her name is Francesca Hector.
Oh, let's just take a moment to honor her. Oh, isn't that wonderful? I love
Yeah.
when people come onto the path to help. It's just such an honor and a blessing, isn't it? And it's also a sign that you are doing exactly what you're meant to do.
Yes, because writing comes really easy, and that is really what I feel is one of the ways for me to bring the messages forward. As sometimes even when I write, I get these messages and they are coming forward, and later on I need to check a word and what does that mean? So, and then I'm like, ah, it's a perfect word, but it is part of that comes almost through as a channeling to bring the message, bring the energy to this world to help others.
Oh, it's wonderful. What a great story. I love that so much. And so I have a question for you. Why do you think so many people, I'm going to look into the camera, I'm going to edit that. On a side note, I have a question for you. Why do you think so many people are struggling to achieve their dreams right now in life and are so stuck in that emotional, spiritual trauma beliefs that keep them from experiencing their true purpose and all that they want in life: joy, happiness, abundance, love?
Yeah, that is a really good question because it is always checking in and what is there holding you back. Because often why people struggle, there is still a limiting story. This is what I call like when something happens, we create a story about it. And often, when we have gone through trauma or adversity, these stories are really limiting us. Like, I had this story that I'm not good enough because I could not save my boyfriend. That meant that I was unlovable, I was not good enough. And that started limiting me because it really was the story I was telling myself no matter what I achieved or whatever I tried, it came to me. And this is something I help people to do, like bring that clarity, because sometimes these are the stories we don't really want to go on our own, but it's so much easier to see them when you have someone else holding there the lantern and bringing that light so that you can see. And these stories are the stories that are holding you back. They are keeping you stuck. You are like prisoner of your past. And when you start shifting that story, you also can feel into those feelings. And yes, sometimes there is a lot of feelings. Sometimes we might even feel numb. That was what I did for years. I cut the cord between the emotions because I was like, that was too much. And it is okay to do that as a coping mechanism. But there comes a time when you want to start connecting again to your feelings. So it is also checking in the story you tell in your thoughts, like a mental level. Then the emotional level, what are the things? How are you feeling? What are you sensing? And feeling into those in a safe way and in a safe place. And often support is really a key here. And then it's checking in with your actions and non-actions. Because sometimes we have things we don't want to do, but we kind of want to do them. So checking in, for example, I have had many clients who have huge fear with visibility because of a past trauma, and this is very common. So they have wanted to go hiding instead of sharing their gifts with the world. And then we have been able to break free because I have helped them to see their life from soul's perspective, seeing all these thoughts, emotions, and the actions or non-actions from soul's perspective. And that has helped them to see the learning. So that's really how you can start shifting. If you feel stuck, check in. What are you telling yourself about your past? There might be some events that are still in process to be healed. And those unresolved issues are really a key for you forward. So if they come up, say thank you, because you are ready to clear that layer so that you can gain that emotional freedom.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with everything you're saying. And back to that beach ball analogy, those are like the triggers. And the treasures are always found in the triggers. And, I personally don't want to live in a bubble of safety. I need to have those triggers to remind me and show me where my growth is. And, I'm trained as a belief coach, and I know that the beliefs are like the alphabet to your perception. And so whatever you're believing, just think about when you say, okay, I really want a white mini, right? I went through this. And then all of a sudden you see white minis everywhere. You never saw them before, but now that it's in your mind, they're everywhere. And so, perception is so powerful. And the stories that we tell ourselves, and I'll make myself vulnerable here. I have this interesting story where I'm like, everyone's always taking my ideas and taking this and taking that. And I'm always having this, and so this has been a wound, one of my kind of betrayal wounds from childhood, and it colors the perception. And I've realized it. I'm very aware of it, and I've been working with it for a while now. So I've got a pretty good tangible understanding. I'm not completely healed by any stretch. Like I'm still watching my beach balls bounce up out of the water, And I'm like, and I had one just yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But the difference now is instead of getting upset, I'm like, oh, there's that little trigger, and there's the beach ball, and like, okay, how can I dance with my shadow? A little shadow dance work and the process work. And I find just being gentle with yourself, like it's an owie, it's a betrayal, it's a hurt, it's an emotional wound. And so being gentle and kind and not punishing ourselves when the beach ball flies up. So I had the beach ball fly up yesterday. And what came up for me was like, oh, I'm a leader. And being a spiritual leader, people follow and they mimic because they actually have a huge amount of respect and they want to be amazing too. And so, yeah, I'm an idea person, I'm a pioneer, and I have these original, and I want everyone to have their own original ideas and be the leader of their own lives. But sometimes they're learning, right? And so now I'm like, oh gosh, I'm having a different understanding of it. And people would say, oh, that means they really admire and respect you. I'm like, doesn't feel like it. But now I'm actually seeing it's true. And this is part of me stepping into my own leadership of being able to hold that compassion and that empathy And wow, it's a big, huge shift in consciousness for me to honor my own betrayal wound, but also to honor my leadership and to honor that actually it is, flattery, isn't it? It's flattery.
Yeah. And
And
I
I
love,
never saw it like that before.
yeah, and I love that awareness, because awareness really is the key to keep move forward, because that help you now, like, oh, I see the beach ball. So you do have a choice. What do you do? Are you shuffling it back? Or are you like, huh, okay, let's take a look, and letting that air out? Because if you wanna release the beach ball, let the air out, and just work through it, because it is possible to clear that closet that we have, or the storage unit.
Yeah.
So that gives you that freedom, because
One
then
more
you
thing to add to this, like I'm really in a process right now, but I saw this post get posted this morning on Facebook, and it's let them, and it's all Mel Robbins, let them theory stuff. But nowhere do they mention Mel Robbins. And I had a little bit of that. Like, that's my pet peeve is like, if you're going to share someone's work, just honor them. And so then I had this moment of like, should I say, oh, this is Mel Robbins, let them theory, and talk about her book in honoring of her, which wasn't done in the post, it just, and I felt like that was where it is for me, is the honoring piece. And so, I had this whole like kind of dominoes went. It's not about people going, oh, that's amazing, like Mel Robbins, let them theory, amazing. But can we share that and go, and this is Mel Robbins' work? Like, can we honor each other? And that is the healing of the sister wound, right? Like honoring each other and lifting each other up. And so I realized it's part of my persecution wound as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And I just wanted to bring that up because it's never one thing. There's all these pieces to acknowledge, and the triggers have a story within themselves. Do you want to add to that? Because I know you've got a lot of wisdom inside of you as well.
Yeah, it is really taking those, when we find those stories we tell, that really brings that choice. Because what if you want to transform, you can find a way to rewrite those stories you are telling yourself, because that's how your limiting beliefs also are have like created. As you repeat a certain story enough many times, it becomes a belief. So that's how you see the world. And if you want to change, it is finding those stories you tell and then starting checking, okay, is this the story I still want to tell myself? Or can I rewrite it? Because we can't change the past, this life, past lives, but we can change how we relate to it.
Yeah, I love that. We can change the way we relate to it. Yeah. My teacher, Lion Goodman, he says that it's never too late to have a happy childhood, meaning that you can rewrite the story around what happened. And so that's what I'm trained in doing, is how can we do that? And it is powerful. So what you're saying is 100% true. It really works. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. I know from personal experience, in order to be certified in this training, you have to do your own work. And so I had to go in and heal my inner child and face all of my, inner shadows and wounds. And like it was a tough 6 months of like delving deep into all of my trauma. But wow, you really do go into a metamorphosis and come out as a new, beautiful butterfly. And yeah, it's powerful, powerful work. Let me see. I think I have a couple more questions here for you. I know you work with people that are reframing trauma. Can you describe this to us?
Yeah, that is a little bit what we have shared here already, but it is really finding a way to tell that different story. And it is an opportunity for us to create a different relationship with our past. And reframing trauma is really seeing life from that soul's perspective, from the higher perspective, because often we might have a lot of emotions to deal with when it comes to this human level view, or we might have those limiting beliefs, thoughts, and we might have those actions or even self-sabotage that comes often when we have gone through challenging life experiences. But if we uplift our awareness and we start seeing those things from soul's perspective, we start checking in into that learning. And that way we start seeing like, hey, something positive came through these experiences. Maybe I learned to be more loving towards myself. Maybe I learned forgiveness. Maybe I learned to letting go. And that way, when you discover that lesson you learned in a positive sense, it really helps you to see your past in a new light. And that is the moment when you tap into gratitude. And that is the moment when you can visualize the very best for yourself and really transform your future.
I love that so much. So really, I'm getting that your spiritual curriculum is about, realizing that everything that has happened to you, everything is for your wisdom, for your growth, for your transformation. And so that means that even all the bad stuff that happens to us is actually a blessing. Am I getting that right?
Yes, and often
Yes.
in a human perspective, that's very challenging sometimes. There are some traumas, challenging life situations that we have gone through, and it is hard for some to say, hey, this happened for me, like it was a blessing. But that's where the soul's perspective comes in, and
Well, I'll
that
tell
helps
you what, I
you.
had a very traumatic thing happen where my sister got into a really bad car accident and she was in a coma. And before we went, I was in New Zealand and I said to my husband, which was my boyfriend at the time, I said, you have to come with me. You have to take work off and you have to come with me. We're going to a wedding in the US. And he goes, honey, I can't. I said, no, I don't know why, but I'm having this very, very strong intuition that you have to come with me, please. And he knows that I'm very spiritual and I'm an oracle. And, he has seen it over and over and over. Like I have an intuition and then it happens. So he knows to trust me. So he did. He took off work and he was really busy. And so he did. He took that time and we went to the wedding and it was beautiful. Well, the last day before we were flying back to New Zealand, my sister got into the accident. So,
Oh,
emergency situation, we had to fly from San Francisco back to Oregon. And thank goddess I listened to my intuition and that he did, because he was the grounding rod that held my whole family together as we all fell apart.
mhm.
It was devastating, but I had so many synchronistic things line up, like running into someone that I knew in the hardware store in Oregon from New Zealand that had just been to my house. Like it was just like doot, 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 doot,
Yeah,
twilight zone of how many aha moments of, okay, even this was meant to happen. I mistakenly said that out loud to my family. And they thought, how could you say that this was meant to happen? Because it was so devastating and it was so horrible and it was so traumatic and it's changed all of our lives, especially my sister. And so when those really bad situations happen and someone's been hit by a car and they're in a coma, I mean, my family were like appalled. How could you say this was meant to happen? But I really 100% do believe that even all the traumatic stuff that happens to us is here to grow us, evolve us, change
right.
us. And it is a spiritual our spiritual crisis is our spiritual awakening. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
And you had in that moment the awareness to see that there is some deeper meaning here as well. And when we start seeking that deeper meaning and trusting that this can serve higher good, because often we don't know the future, we don't know how these things support us. We see it afterwards. When we look in the rear view mirror, we see how the dots connect. But often at the moment, when we are in the midst, you had the awareness, but many of us might struggle to having that awareness. But it is the good question to ask, what can I learn through this situation? And one of the key answers there is loving. Like, how can we add a dose of loving whatever we are going through? Because that often is the supportive element that we can bring into our life and into the life of others.
absolutely. And my last and final question is, what do you suggest as a first step to discover your spiritual curriculum?
Get my book.
Absolutely.
Because it really guides you step by step. But one of the exercises I have in the book is doing the map, the journey of our life. Because often when we write down those highs and lows, we start seeing some patterns. And when we start seeing those patterns, then we can check like, okay, similar events have happened here a few times. Maybe you have been certain type of relationships and like, okay, I go into a relationship and it keeps repeating. I just change the partner, but the same things keep happening. That's a pattern. And then you can check in, what am I learning through this pattern? So if you map those highs and lows, because those are the things we easily remember because they are stored differently in our brain. So that help gives you some keys and clues toward finding your spiritual curriculum.
Oh, I love that. I love the mapping out the patterns because that's what I had to do when I had a series of not so good relationships. And I am really good at manifesting, and I manifested 3 men in 1 year, and it all went not so good. And I went, okay, I'm not going to manifest for a while. I'm going to work on my healing. And that's what I did. I started to map it and see the patterns and then work on my healing process. And I took a break from men, I took a break from manifesting, and I just worked on myself and discovering those patterns. I could heal the parts of my inner child and what I needed to work on so that I could change the reality of what I was manifesting. So, really,
Yes.
really important. I am looking forward to getting your book. I am like, okay, I want one. Tell me when they're ready. I will put the link
Wonderful.
in the chat below. And do you have a little free offering for people too that I can put in the chat below as well?
Yes, because I want to give you an experience as well to go deeper what we have been talked here. And it is helping you to process in 11 minutes if you feel there is some turmoil. Maybe you have the closed Pandora's box. So what I'm guiding you through is a quick relief for inner peace. So you will start finding that greater inner peace whatever there is in your Pandora's box, you start having the methods that you can tune in and have that guidance because I guide you through step by step. And that experience will bring you that greater inner calm and you feel more centered. And then that helps you to gain more clarity of your next steps.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Katja, so much. Thank you for your story, your wisdom, your superpowers. You're a wonderful, wonderful being in the world. And I feel so blessed that the universe brought us together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any last and final words?
Just want to share that remember that your past does not need to equal your future. It is truly possible to make peace with your past and find the keys to transform your future. So that's what I want to leave you with, and sending you lots of light and love. And thank you, Schamet, for having me here. It's been so wonderful to connect with you, my soul sister.
Yes, absolutely. My soul sister. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending you all so much love and abundance on your healing journey. Mwah. Mwah.